Hello and welcome to Eclipse Season 2025 Spring Edition. Today in this video, we're going to be covering the specific timing of the eclipse, which is happening on March 13th, 11:58 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to connect that back to the previous eclipse on the Virgo Pisces axis, which was on September 17th. I have my notes here. And after giving the dates and the specifics of the energy that we are in with Mercury, Venus, Neptune getting ready to change signs, and a few more things, we're going to talk about those specifics because these are highly influencing March and April of 2025 and deeply impacting you personally as well as all of us collectively. So I would recommend having one of these out so you can mark the dates in your calendar. If that's something that you like to do, I personally find it very helpful just to kind of have an anchor to the sky as I'm going through my days. So let's get started by, I already mentioned today, March 13th is our first eclipse. September 17th of 2024, we had a North Node full moon lunar eclipse. So the moon was in Pisces, the sun was in Virgo. You can Google it, see what happened September 17th, the day before, the day of, the day after. And in the 6 months that followed that, here we are now, everything that has taken place between that time frame in your personal life, in your soul, in your spirit, how you decorate your daily routine and how you tune into your own self in connection with the sky and the earth and your dreams, the people who you're relating with. So anytime we have the North Node in Pisces, this is going to be an extremely soul touching time. And it's pushing us, making progress happen in things that have to do with our spirituality, with our artistic capacity, our psychic abilities, our intuition, the ability to sense and feel sense information with more than just the logical mind. Logical mind sensing is more of a Virgo thing. And the South Node is currently in Virgo. The South Node is where there is a recession, and the North Node is where there is a surge. So, North Node is going to, I think of this, I'm doing this signal of like the ocean coming in, and there's all this surge of energy. Where the South Node is, it's when the tide pulls back and it's like cleaning off the ocean, and we can see what's left there. We can find the important things. We can resurrect something. We can purify, cleanse, detox. Now, when we're talking about a South Node in Virgo, purification and detox are the main themes because Virgo deals with number one, the intestines. Virgo is the planetary ruler of Virgo is Mercury. So we want to be looking at what Mercury is doing, which we will do in this video today. So we have more of an idea about how this recession or how this pullback of energy is working with us, for us, and how we can use it to our advantage. So now, okay, so you're doing this work of going back September 17th. There was a catastrophe. Catastrophe. Is that a word? Catastrophe. Yes. Catastrophic. So this is a word that is an astrology word, and you can hear the astroph. So it's something that, all right, the etymology is reversal of what is expected, especially A reversal of what is expected and overturning a sudden end. Okay. Now, I went ahead and looked it up for you. Some things to know for September 17th. Secret Service, immigration, North Carolina floods, Titan tragedy, Boeing strike, and a certain person was arrested. I'm not even going to say his name. So that was on the day of September 17th. So in the next 6 months that followed, it's not those topics necessarily, it is energy associated with those topics. So you can think about that for yourself and how either that influenced your mind, your faith, your life. In some ways, that has been something that may have altered your life. So now that we're here on March 13th, let's see where we're at. So we had Venus go retrograde on March 1st. That retrograde took place at 10 degrees of Aries. Venus is going to retrograde. I think today Venus is at like 9, possibly 8 of Aries. It's the after the retrograde, this getting to go backwards has been pretty slow. And Venus will retrograde all the way back until I believe it was like 27, 28 of Pisces. And then Venus will come back and okay, Venus goes all the way back to 24 degrees of Pisces and then stations direct and moves back through. So we'll get specific on the details of this in another video, but for the eclipse season, what you need to know is that Venus is going through a very, very transformative period. This retrograde only happens once every 584 days. And it is the ending of a previous 584-day cycle. And we're getting ready to begin a new 584-day cycle, which will take place on March 22nd. So, everybody who has a birthday on March 22nd, Venus, the new Venus cycle starts that day. That is going to be part of your solar return chart, saying that you have something going on there with that new Venus. So, what is a new Venus? This is the beginning of a new 584-day cycle. This is known as the Venus star point. We are right now getting information about how this Venus star point is going to be impacting us personally. So, what you want to do is look at Aries on your chart, specifically what you have at 2 degrees of Aries, because that's the degree Venus will have the beginning of the cycle. And then I would also look at just that whole chunk of space between 10 degrees of Aries and 24 degrees of Pisces. That space is getting heavily, heavily worked. In a Venusian way, this is going to be bringing up things from the past that have to do with what you have valued. What you have valued. So you want to look at the houses of Aries and Pisces, because these houses specifically are where this action is taking place. And the spaces between Aries and Pisces is being worked by a Mercury retrograde doing the same. So Mercury is following like 2 degrees, 2 to 3 degrees during this whole retrograde. They're right with each other. They are retrograding right through those same degrees with each other and then back forward again together. And why I feel this is so important is because we have something major happening on March 30th, which is Neptune changing signs. Neptune has not been at 0 degrees of Aries for 165 years. And we're done with Neptune in Pisces. Neptune in Pisces has been such a wild trip for me personally, and I don't know, like I've tuned into to Neptune a lot during this time frame. So, not to get into that so much, important thing to know is that this changing of signs for Neptune is a rare occurrence. Neptune is going to stay put for about 14 years, 14, 15 years in every sign. And having this change is huge. That's happening on March 30th. We will then have Saturn also moving over into Aries. Now, when Saturn moves over into Aries, they're never, Neptune and Saturn are not going to make an exact, but they're within range of being pretty exact throughout 2025. They will both retrograde back into Pisces, and then they will both move forward and stay in Aries in 2026. So, for this year in 2025, we're all experiencing this kind of back and forth between Aries, which is where in our lives we are fierce, direct, independent. We're going for it. This is our area of where we really rise like the sun. And it's weird because, like for me, I have 12th house Aries. The 12th house is the place of dreams and unconscious habits, karmic patterns. This is the place of the unconscious, dream time. And that is where I am most bold and fierce and where I take most of my actions. And this is my entire life. I can tell you so many things about, like, story wise, about how that has played out in my life. So, wherever you have Aries, this is where you are a true leader. This is where your leadership is naturally placed in your chart. So there's at least I will say there is a leadership, an independence, a fierce motivation to do something. It's like where you go foraging. I don't think that's the word. Like a frontier, like you're going to explore a frontier. Then Pisces, wherever you have Pisces, this is where you are most mystical, most dreamy, most in tune with the pulse of, I think of this as the threads that hold everything in the universe together. You could call it like plasma, like an ethereal plasma that holds everything in the universe together. This is the realm, Pisces is the realm of the mystic, the dreamer. It is where you are most ethereal, where you're most dreamy. Now, in our current culture, I feel that a lot of people are not so tuned into Pisces at that level, and maybe they are and they're just not acknowledging it. But Pisces is where you are most psychic, where your psychic senses are most on point. So, to use my example, that's going to be my 11th house because Aries is 12, Pisces is going to be the 11th. And I can say that in my, so 11th house has to do with your collective groups, your ambitions, your, what I would say about the 11th house is like when you are at a conference and it's all those people in the conference, like your peers, people who are also having the same goals and dreams and ambitions as you. So it is your goals, dreams, and ambitions, as well as the people who are associated with that. Some people call that friends, but it's more like peers. So that is the area where I am most mystical, dreamy. I feel like people know me as that person who is like a mystic, a dreamer. I'm always going to be that person. And my sun is there, and I have 5 planets there in the 11th house. So You want to do that for yourself. See what areas of life are being worked here between Pisces and Aries, because this area is literally getting the most work in 2025 with this major transit of Neptune, as well as the transit of Saturn. And I feel like Mercury and Venus right now, going back and forth over this part of our chart, is like really getting clear, getting clarity about what we're holding in that Pisces area. What are our values and how do we think about it? How do we communicate with spirits? How do we transmit information? And as we clarify all of that stuff in Pisces, we take it forward into Aries and we are ready. We are ready, ready, ready to take action, to do what we need to do, to start those grassroots programs, to get together and go out on the wild, wild frontier and not find, pave our way. So like maybe you have too, heard a lot of people talking, maybe since 2020, about like, let's buy this dirt, let's buy this soil, let's buy land, let's build this thing, and wanting to do permaculture groups together and getting together and going out and doing stuff. Well, we weren't ready necessarily in 2020. That was maybe when we started to see something that we hadn't seen before. And right now, I feel like we are really refining and fine tuning what's in our body water. Pisces has to do with the lymphatic system, which is like what touches every bit of us because it's the fluid that runs through. And as we're purifying and clearing that and having clarity around what it is that we are holding in consciousness, we get to Aries, we're ready to be clear about what it is that we want to do. Okay, I think I said that twice. I hope you get the point. All right, so I have some notes here. Did I cover everything I wanted to cover? Oh, duh, the eclipse. All right, so we talked about the September 17th eclipse. Now, we have this eclipse happening today. I hope I can get this out to you soon enough to watch it. Um, the eclipse, South Node eclipse, is a really good time to manage your intestines. Manage your intestines means get really clear about what is good for your body. What is something that is digestible for you? And what have you been taking in because you heard that it was good for you? I'm going to give you an example. In 2022 winter, I started studying women's hormones and I was taking a doula training and I was getting ready. I wanted to become a midwife, so I decided I would take the doula training first, study this women's hormonal health class for 6 months, and then signed up for doula from the midwifery training. During that winter of 2022, I was getting the in my head from the teachers that I was studying from, who were, doesn't matter. But it's interesting though. So maybe I will say it. The one teacher who I had who was doing the doula training was a Black woman. And she was like, all these lentils and all these other sources of protein and like minimal with the fish or some, minimal with the animal protein, but it left it up to you. She was like, figure it out, do what you need to do, find out what works with your body. Everybody else who I was studying with for women's hormonal health, the midwifery people I was studying with, all of the teachers who were just talking about fertility and all of this, 100% white people. And they were all saying, you need meat, this beef and organs. And so I was like, oh my God, I need meat. And so I started eating meat and I did like 3 months of really wholeheartedly trying to eat meat after I've been a vegetarian since my son was born and he's 20 now. And so I tried this way, that way. Some of you might have been with me on that journey. And remember, it was a wild experience for me. And I really was diligent, like, okay, a little bit, start off small and okay, maybe 3 times a week. Okay, dial it down to 2 times. Anyway, you get the point. I was trying. 3 months, it might have been 4 months. I could not deal with meat. I couldn't digest it. I was having all these like problems. It was just not good for me. One of my friends was like, "Why don't you just stop? Like, why don't you just stop?" That was Elvis, my friend Elvis from Sweden. And I was like, "Thank you so much for saying that. I'm just going to stop." And I got back to my radiance and back to my normal health, and everything has been great. So, I'm giving you this example because sometimes the information, which mentally it makes sense, that sounds reasonable to me. Like, oh, amino acids, animal protein, this and that. That makes sense. I'm going to try it. But my body was not a yes. My body was not a yes. You know what my body is a yes for? Lentils, eggs, sometimes um, beans, lots of vegetables, lots of apples, lots of fruits. And that's what my body's a yes for. And no matter what anybody else says, I am the scientist of my body as you are the scientist of your body. So the South Node in Virgo is asking you what is digestible for you? What are you digesting that brings the most amount of life force, liberating the most amount of light and energy that's ready to be used in your life? Ask yourself that. You can experiment with this. This doesn't have to be like I told you, I spent 3 or 4 months. I don't really remember. I documented everything though, so I could go back and look. Yes, I have 5 planets in Pisces, but I have a lot of things in Virgo also. So, um, the documentation is everything. Because you can go back and look and be like, oh, I tried this, I tried that, and here's all the data from my testing my hormones every day, taking my temperature, the quality of my menstrual blood, how was my the color of the blood, all of this stuff, like data. You are the scientist of your own body. So whatever it is that you're working with right now, related to your health, your daily routines, the daily grind, because how you take care of your health is how you're able to go out and do service for others and how you're able to do your daily grind, whatever that is. So, this is a topic I'm feeling it like, oh, so these Virgo South node eclipses are going to be asking us, how do you serve? Who do you serve? How are you in service to spirit? How is your sacred work serving humanity, serving animals, serving the earth? Virgo is about your sacred work. If you are unwell, and there are levels of wellness. There was a time that when I first got out of the Navy and I was doing detox, like it was a year long detoxing organ system by organ system. And by the time I got done with that, I had reached a level of wellness that I did not even know was possible. And I felt fine before that. I was like, I'm fine. But there are levels to your vitality. How much energy is liberated from your body? How much energy is being contracted and held in tight muscles, held in your intestines? I have lots of intestinal stories, which I'm not going to get into now. But that's what these South Node eclipses are going to be helping us to remove. South Node, like I said, is that tide pulling back. So in the pulling back, we can find our true vitality. We can find what it is to have like this flowering up of health and vitality from our belly up. Okay. And the North Node being in Pisces is directing us to expand. It's actually pushing. The North Node is a little pushy. It is, I will say, forceful at times about stepping into the unknown of what is next. What is your next best possibility in the Pisces area of your chart? So, what house is it? That's the first thing you want to know. And just remember that wherever Pisces is on your chart, that is where you are most mystical. You bring that dreamy, mystical, ethereal, empathic essence. I've been hearing something lately about empathy and it being like a lost or like something that is becoming obsolete for humans. Where you have Pisces is where you are most empathic. So the North Node eclipses going through that house are going to be bringing out and pushing you forcefully during eclipse season into your best case scenario. Other notes that I have here. Oh my gosh, this one. We're still on the eclipses, so I didn't get too far. Okay, so at the time of the eclipse, we are going to have Uranus is around 23. I want to just double check, but I think it's at, just going to leave it. It's either 23 or 24 of Taurus, which will be, it's 24. And the eclipse is happening at 23 of Virgo and 23 of Pisces. Two things I'm remembering. So the sun is within a degree of Saturn. And this is so huge. This is so, so huge for your Pisces house because you've been going through something in that area of your life that has not been comfortable. It has been probably you've been feeling judged. You've been feeling like you're not good enough. You're not doing it right. You're not working hard enough, or you're working too hard. You're not feeling seen. There because wherever Saturn transits, like Saturn moving in the sky right now is at 20, I believe Saturn's at 22 of Pisces. And this is an energy that is meant to slow us down so we can make something right. We need to build it in a way that it is going to hold more than just ourselves. And that's what Saturn is about, along with some other things that Saturn is about. But the main instance is just getting us to slow down enough to to bring a practicality to the most ethereal sign of the zodiac, which is a challenge for all of us. And so the sun being with Saturn at the time of this eclipse is huge. I think that this is going to have a lot to do with leadership on the world stage, and I'm not going to talk too much about that. You can go to other channels for that. I have my ideas, but it's not something I feel really, I don't know, I'm not so interested in it. Although watching what's happening on the world stage and how we react, how our emotions get involved in what's happening or what we perceive that's happening is it is powerful and it is important. It is important because we can be like getting all worked up over something that it's like watching Days of Our Lives. Like my grandma used to watch that. Or just watching a football game or watching something that's like not really doing much in your life, but it takes a lot of emotional energy. And then we're like thinking about it and the time and energy spent thinking about it, posting about it, could be used on your own personal projects. That time and energy can be used in other ways. So, yes, Saturn is with the sun at the eclipse. This is going to be, it's asking, Saturn is asking us at this eclipse, especially, to channel your vitality that's the sun, into the project in your life, which is building a foundation to hold your spirit, which is building a foundation to engage, communicate, to be a part of the spirit community. That's what it is. That's what I'm getting right now. To be a part of the spirit community. So it's like to build your life in a way that includes the spirits. Whether that is you have an ancestor altar that you take care of, you're feeding the nature spirits when you take the coffee from your ancestor altar and you pour it on the soil and say, "This is for the nature spirits." Saying it out loud is really helpful because it's the action of that is putting you back in relationship with the spirits. Whether it's that, or you're going to church, or you're doing something that brings you back into the pattern of the spirits. Pisces, spirituality, the ethereal web of life, and how we are that web. It's easy to forget sometimes because we get so caught up in the material part of life. And this eclipse cycle for the next 18 months is going to really be reminding us like, hey, honey, you are part of this web. You need to start paying attention to it. That reminds me of a book that I would love to show you. It should be right here. Anyway, oh, it's back there. It's called Voices of the First Day. Let me grab that. This book, I actually found it on my run, and I want to say that was 2020 on the day that my Neptune initiation started. The day, like I was like, oh, today's the first hit of three of Neptune initiation. We all get it at midlife. And I found this book. So it's Awakening the Aboriginal Dreamtime. Highly, highly recommend this book for everything Pisces. For everything Pisces. This could be a textbook for Pisces. And Virgo, there's a lot of things. You can never take one sign out of context of its opposite sign because they are part of a polarity. They work together. A lot of people have said this, that there's really only six signs and their polarity. Let me get that off there. All right. So go back and oh God, I got stuff everywhere. So there's that. That was Saturn. Now let's talk about Uranus. Uranus is, oh yeah, that's what we started with. I believe Uranus is at 24 Taurus. And so that's basically just a little bit like 1 degree outside of being a perfect sextile at the time of the eclipse. But one day later, actually not even one day, it's like a few hours later, the sun will be exactly sextile Uranus on the 14th of March. So if we have that eclipse at 11:58, which is basically March 14th, it's like 2.5 hours later, the sun perfects the sextile with Uranus. So what does that mean? It's like Saturn wants to keep the tradition, make something, build something, bring some solidity to our relationship with the spirit world, our capacity to dream bigger, our ability to remember in Avatar and all the machine guns and all this stuff was coming, and then they were like talking to the tree and like praying and like out loud. Praying out loud, saying things out loud is so much more powerful than just saying it in your head. I've been a person that says it in my head all the time, and lately I've been saying it out loud. So much more powerful because there's like this vibration that interacts with the vibration of everything around you. And I feel like we need to say it out loud. So in the Avatar movie, the moment that the nature spirits came and fought back, that movie was so Virgo. It was so Virgo and Pisces and a lot of things. I can't even categorize it like that. That movie was so much for me. I watched it like so many times and took notes and was like, oh, wow. Um, okay, so Saturn wants to make it real, wants to solidify. Uranus, on the other hand, being at a sextile, is offering sudden, radical, innovative shifts. We don't know what to expect with Uranus. It can be an earthquake or it can be a breakthrough, something that's breaking through on, I'm seeing on the financial things. It can be, not it can be, it will be surprising. We won't really know exactly. We can't predict. It's coming up though. So usually these things will happen um, in the around the time frame. Sometimes, like I mentioned about September 17th, it was on the day of the eclipse. And sometimes these things will show up in the next 6 months that follow. So we what we're looking for, if you are looking for anything, it's going to have something to do with groundbreaking innovations that add value to our spiritual essence, that add value to our psychic senses, value from the Taurus, psychic senses from Pisces, our ability to dream bigger, our ability to see ourselves as more than just the physical body. Physical body, yes, and so that can show up in your own personal life in a lot of ways. I'm feeling really like that being something like it's already started happening for me. Like this is already something that I am very aware of. And I started a class, I think we're like through week one of the recording material called Psychic Body Activation. Week two, we haven't started yet because I've been so tired that I can't even. Oh my God. I'll get back to it probably tomorrow. So I've been feeling this, like the value of my psychic abilities becoming so great that nothing can shake me because I know, it's like I know things and I'm not bothered by the feeling of uncertainty. And there are some things I'm uncertain about, but it's not bothering me. I'm able to sleep. Believe me, I have been getting some sleep. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and let this go now. I've talked about everything I want to talk about. There's a few more things. There's so much going on in March. The eclipses are setting off, and this is eclipse one. So let me do this. Let's save some of this for the next video so I'm not like boring you to death with all this. But just a quick rundown. What I wrote here, the 19th, which is just a few days after the eclipse, we have a Sun Neptune conjunction for the last time in our entire lives. So I believe that Neptune has been in Pisces for 13 or 14 years. I'm not sure which. That means we've had like 13 or 14 Sun Neptune conjunctions during Pisces season. So in March or a little maybe February too. Sun Neptune conjunctions, and this will be the last one. So this is very important because we're going to have Neptune going into a new sign just a short 11 days after. We have spring equinox, which is the real new year, the solar new year. The beginning of the solar cycle starts on the 20th, one day after that Neptune conjunction. And on the 22nd, we have a Sun Venus conjunction. this is this is important because there'll likely be some revelation to you about what you've been going through in your own Venus cycle, like your own internal Venus cycle. This can be related to what you value, your relationships, love, money, sensuality, pleasures, how you are interconnected with your own group of people who you love and who loves you and your values. On the 24th, so that's just 2 days later, the Sun and Mercury will make their conjunction, another revelation. So we're going to be having some revelations leading into Mercury going retrograde as we move through the end of March and getting ready to start um, our new lives. I'm just going to say that because it really seems like there's so much shifting that it's like a whole new life is coming. Aries has to do with birth. It is a rebirth. It's like in Pisces, things dissolve. It's the end of winter, the beginning of spring. So the beginning of spring is the rebirth of the solar cycle. It's like the sun is being reborn. And this is also, like I mentioned, in your chart, it is where you are most, I'm going to say rambunctious right now. It is where you most come alive with this childlike wonder and this spirit of curiosity and adventure and being willing and able to go trampling through new frontiers and finding, creating. It's not finding, it is creating the path forward. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.